Hey guys, welcome back to Animation. So in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to use the DUIK plugin to do a walking cycle in After Effects. So in my previous tutorial, I showed you how to rig a character using DUIK, and because there's a lot to cover in one video, so I thought I should do a separate video that focuses on walking cycle. So my character has already been rigged here, and if you want to know how to do that, you can go back to my previous video and I've put the link in the description below. So walking cycle, I'm gonna use this walk cycle reference. I always use it. I'm not an expert in character animation and I don't specialize in it. I'm just gonna show you what I know and what I usually do. So I use this reference by Richard Williams and it's from the book Animator's Survival Kit. If you've never read or heard of the book, I would recommend you to have a look at it. It talks about the basic animation techniques. Alright, so what we're gonna animate today is just these controller layers, which are the green layers, and we won't need to animate any of these guys. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just select all of the layers that are not the controller layers. I'm gonna click on the shy icon here, and then I'm gonna activate the shy icon here so that it just hides them in the timeline. And also there's a couple of control layers that we won't need to animate, which is the hip, spine root, spine curve, and shoulders and neck. So I'm gonna hide those as well. So we're gonna start animating the body. So as you see here, the body or the hip, it kind of like, it starts here and then it goes down and goes up and up again, and it goes down back to normal. So we're gonna do the up and down of the body first. So I'm gonna create a position keyframe, and what I'm gonna do, I'm actually gonna bring this down a little bit, maybe somewhere there, and then move 10 frames forward, holding shift page down, and then here I'm gonna bring it down more, move 10 frames forward, gonna bring it up, and then 10 frames forward, bring it up again, and then 10 frames forward. So the last one, this one, I'm just gonna copy the very first keyframe and paste it there, because basically the very first keyframe and the end keyframe has to be exactly the same. So if we preview it now, character's body is just kind of like go up and down, and now we need to animate the legs. So let's start with this front leg here, which is this one. I name it as foot L. So I'm gonna create the keyframe for position and rotation. I'm gonna bring that leg forward somewhere there, and then do the rotation. Doesn't have to be exact, something like that. Maybe bring it up a little bit actually, something like that, and then move 10 frames forward. And this one, the down pose, I want to make the position of the leg the same, so I'm just gonna create a keyframe there without changing the position, and then the rotation, I'll put it back to 0. Move 10 frames forward, and I'm just gonna bring it back, because this in the past pose, the leg's just kind of like back and straight. Also, we can always like adjust this later, so don't worry about making it perfect the first time. 10 frames forward, gonna bring this leg backward, turn the rotation, 10 frames forward, and then I think I'm just gonna leave it there. So I'm just gonna create a keyframe still, even though we're not moving it. This is kind of like the tricky part. So we're on the last contact, right? So if you see this leg here and the front leg on the reference, so that's it. But now we have to do the cycle all over again, because this front leg is gonna do the cycle that's on the back leg, if that makes sense. So just imagine this front leg turns to this. So we're gonna follow the back leg cycle now. We're at this, so we're gonna move on to this. So the 10 frames forward, we're gonna look at this pose. We're gonna look at this structure. So basically it's kind of like off the ground a little bit and backwards, and the rotation just kind of like that, and then 10 frames forward, and then remember the back leg, go up like that, creating this 90-degree shape. And then this one, the up pose, is gonna be like at the front. Adjust the rotation, and then the last one, we're just gonna copy and paste. Remember, so the very first and last keyframes of each layer has to be exactly the same. Now let's move on to the foot at the back. So now, because the front foot is kind of like covering the back leg, I'm gonna turn this layers off and I'm gonna look for the back leg, which I think I name it as L foot, calf and thigh. So that's the pink layers, the L, calf, thigh and foot. I'm gonna also turn the structures off, which is these guys, the ones that has underscore L at the end. I'm gonna turn this back on. Alright, so let's keyframe the position and rotation again. So I'm gonna turn that on. And the back leg is basically these guys. So I'm gonna bring that backwards, I guess something like that, go up a little bit, adjust the rotation, move 10 frames forward, and then it's gonna be up off the ground a little bit. 10 frames forward, now the pass pose, and that's gonna be like folded up almost like 90 degrees. 10 frames forward, and this is gonna be at the front. This is a bit tricky, I find. It's just so that it doesn't look awkward, but at the same time it would work. And then the last one, contact, and we're gonna put it down on the ground and rotate that foot. Alright, now like what we did before, because it ends there, so that back leg is exactly the same as this front leg. For the second cycle, we're gonna focus on this front leg cycle, even though our character is actually on the back leg. So the next one would be down, because this contact one is basically these guys. I'm just gonna create a keyframe on a position because I'm not gonna move the position, but the rotation I'm gonna turn it back to 0. Now move on the pass pose, move it back until it's like kind of like straight. Because we're not changing the rotation, I'm just gonna create a keyframe there. After that pass pose, we're going to up, which is this one. So the leg just go backward. Turn the rotation. I'm gonna bring it up a little bit. Turn the rotation more. And then the last one, remember to copy the very first keyframe and paste it on the very last ones. Now I want to turn everything back on, at least just like the body layer. Let's have a look how it goes. Okay, as you can see, like the very last bit, like the body's not moving because I forgot to do a loop out expression. So once you animate these layers, you want to create a loop out expression by hitting Alt and then click on the stopwatch icon and just type in loop out. I'm just gonna copy that so that I can paste it on the other layers as well. Now let's have a look again. So it's looking much better, but we're gonna work with the timing a bit later, but I wanna just animate the hands first. Let's do this front hand first, which is hand L, and we're gonna focus on this white hand, which is the front hand. So as per usual, P and R for position and rotation, and we're gonna bring it down because we're looking at this contact pose. Bring it down and then rotate the hand a little bit so it's not too awkward, something like that. 10 frames forward, and then it's kind of like go back a little bit on the down pose. Rotate it like that, and then on the pass pose, the hand is actually going right next to the body and down a little bit. I'm just gonna turn the rotation to 0. Maybe not 0. It's like 236 something. And then on the up pose, the hand is actually moving past your body a little bit. The last contact will be just like a bit forward again. And I'm just gonna turn the rotation. Now the same as the legs, once we finish this front cycle, we're gonna imagine that this is this back one. So now the next pose is sit down. So let's have a look at the back arms. So that one, actually gonna move a bit forward like that. And I'm gonna turn the rotation a little bit. And then the pass pose, it's gonna go back close to your body, but still kind of like a little bit forward. The up pose, it's gonna go back. And then the very last one, we're just gonna copy and paste this. Now we're gonna do the same, create a loop out expression. Now the hand R. So that's the back arms. So we're gonna start with that dark arms at the back. And rotate the hand, move forward. The arm's gonna move forward a little bit. And then the pass pose, go back a little bit. And then the up, the arm's gonna go backwards. You don't really see it. And then the next one is the arm's gonna go back. But yeah, you don't really see it with this type of character. And then the next one, again, because we end with this, just imagine this back arms is this front arm now. And now we move on to the down pose and focus on the light arm on the reference. The arm's actually moving backwards more. I'm gonna rotate that because that looks so weird. And then the pass pose, which is the arms is gonna be straight pretty much. And then the up, your arm's gonna move forward. And then the last one, I'm just gonna copy and paste again, the very first keyframe. Now I'm gonna do the loop out thing again. Let's have a watch. You know what I noticed? The front hand here is doing something weird. I think it just doesn't rotate very well, so I'm gonna rotate it back like that. See how it's like not there, it's hiding. So I'm just gonna rotate it so that it shows. I'm gonna hit U on my keyboard to show all of the keyframes. I feel like the movement is a bit slow. Looks like you're kind of like in slow motion. So I'm gonna select all of the keyframes and hold Alt on your keyboard and just select the very last keyframes and drag it along to the left so that it just makes it a bit faster. I'm just gonna try there first and see if that's enough. Still feels a bit slow, so I'm gonna drag it along to the left again until it reaches around 1 second. So 1 second for the whole cycle. Now I'm gonna turn off all of the structures so that we can see the body clearer. And I'm just gonna select all of these structures and turn it off and just hide all the layers. And let's have a look again. There you are. It feels better, but I feel like it's a bit too fast now. So I'm gonna select all the keyframes and drag it all to the right. Okay, that feels better, like the timing feels better. Now I'm just gonna fix a couple of things, and I feel like the front arm is moving a bit weird, this guy right here. So I'm just gonna move frame by frame and see. Okay, I feel like sometimes when your legs or your arms is stretched too much, that's when the weird kind of like jerky movement comes from. So as you can see here, look at the front arm. It's kind of like stretched out here and it's stretched again. And suddenly it's just kind of like, boop, it makes that weird movement. So I'm just gonna like move this inwards a little bit so it's not as stretched. Yeah, so there's like a slight bend. I still feel like there's a bit of weird movement there. When there's like weird movement, usually it's because the interpolation is set to Bezier or something. So I'm gonna select all of the position, right click on any of the keyframes, and then keyframe interpolation, and then look at the spatial interpolation. Sometimes it says like auto Bezier or Bezier or continuous Bezier. If it does, or if it says current setting, it's just best to just change it back to linear. As you can see here, all of these dotted lines, it has that kind of like Bezier, so it's kind of like smooth, but sometimes it doesn't work with some animation, so I just like to leave it to linear. So as soon as you click OK, watch this space, it just turns to linear, so there's no Bezier anymore, and hopefully it's fixed it. Obviously my character design is not the best out there because you can see that it's like a little bit of like edge showing up like that, and like the character design just needs to be fixed a little bit better. So if we turn off the shy layer and let's go to this lake there, and then basically what you need to do is just create a rounded rectangle tool and just double click on it, just kind of like smooth it out a little bit, something like that, and hopefully it fixes it a little bit. Yeah, it actually does. But I'm gonna hide this for a sec because I can't see what's behind it. So I'm just gonna select those vertices and move it like that. Turn it back on so you can see, and also we can actually fix this arm as well. And I'm just gonna move this. It looks better. Just gonna see around this knee areas as well. Yeah, it doesn't look smooth. Just adjust that so that it looks less jaggy. Okay, yeah, they look better now. And for the head, I usually just animate rotation. So usually on contact, it's just kind of like normal. And then down, animate it forward a little bit. Pose, normal again. And then on the up, we just backwards like that. On the contact, on the very last keyframes, I'm just gonna copy and paste the first keyframe again, and then I'm gonna loop this out. So now your head is moving a little bit. You can also do an easy ease on this. So just select everything and hit F9. So that looks actually a bit weird because it just kind of like slows down or even stopping on every keyframes. So I'm not gonna do that. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this to the circle keyframe. I don't know what's that called. If you know what it's called, please let me know. Usually it's just kind of like smoothing the movement but not exactly stopping it like easy ease. So there's always like room for improvement, but I feel like if I just show you everything, I'm just gonna waste your time. So I'm just gonna end the tutorial there. If you feel like after you animate your character, if you feel like it's just moving like a bit weirdly, just fix it. Hopefully that helps, and hopefully it's not too all over the place as well. If you have any questions, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I'll see you next time.